So on this video, we're going to work our way through this IGCSE Maths Foundation paper, paper 1 from Tuesday the 21st of May 2019. And for my referencing, this is paper number 5. Question 1. So here we've got to write down an odd number for part A. So that's anything that's not divisible by 2. Now you only have to write down one of these, but you could have done 3 or 19 or 51 or 81. Those are all odd numbers. They're not divisible by 2. Now for part B, a multiple of 12. Now that's anything that's in the 12 times table. So from here you could have chosen either the 24 or the 60. And again, to repeat, you only had to list one of these. Now a square number, now you get a square number when it's something times itself. So 9 would be a square number because 3 3s are 9. So looking at the options here, 81 is a square number because 9 9s are 81, and 16 is a square number because 4 4s is 16. Now for part D, a prime number only has two factors, one in itself. So the only way you can get a prime number when you times two whole numbers together is one in itself. So 3 is a prime number because the only way you can get 3 is 1 times 3. 8 isn't because, yes, you've got 1 times 8, but you've also got 2 times 4. Now 16 isn't, it's even, or 4 4s are 16. 19 is. Okay, 51 is not a prime number because it is divisible by 3. So those are your final answers for number 1. Question 2. Now a pentagon has got 5 sides. The size of each angle in an equilateral triangle. Well, an equilateral triangle, all 3 sides are the same length and all 3 angles are the same. Now the angles in any triangle add up to 180. So if that 180 is spread equally over the 3 angles, 180 divided by 3 is 60 degrees. And now 1 kilometre is 1,000 meters. The way I suggest you remember this, when it says cent, like centimetre, okay, cent, think century, 100, or how many cents in a dollar, 100. So whenever it's cent, think it's 100. Everything else tends to be 1,000, like milli or kilo. Question 3. Which of these lakes has the least surface area? So which is the smallest number there? Well, that's the 5,120. So that's Mwelu. Now for part B, write that in words. Well, that is 6,405. Now for part C, write this number correct to the nearest thousand. Now that's either going to be 68,000 or 69,000, and because it's over 68,500, that is closer to 69,000. Now for part D, Sammy says the surface area of Lake Malawi is about 5.5 times the surface area of Lake Albert. Well, let's see if that's true. So let's take 5.5 and multiply that by the surface area of Lake Albert, which is 5,299. So get your calculator and multiply those together, and we get 29144.5. Now, I think that is pretty close to Lake Malawi of 29,500. So I'm going to say Sammy is correct. As 29,144.5 is close to 29,500. Now the answer scheme allows either way because it's a subjective fact whether you think that's close or not. So if you said Sammy is not correct, as 29,144.5 is not close to 29,500, that would also have given you 4 marks. Question 4. So part A. Circle the word in the box below that best describes the likelihood the spinner will land on a green. Well, there's 1 green out of 6, so it is possible. Okay, but so it is just unlikely. 1 out of 6 is not that likely. It's unlikely, but it's not impossible. Now, for part B, mark with a cross the probability the spinner will land on a blue. Well, there are 3 blues out of 6 options. Now, 3 out of 6 is 1 out of 2. It's 50-50. So X goes in the middle. Part C, the probability the spinner will land on yellow. Well, there are no yellows. It's impossible. You cannot land on a yellow. And given it's impossible, the probability is 0. So, question 5. We've got 12,481 at a concert, 8,906 of these are adults. So if we've got 12,481 in total, and we take away the 8,906 adults, that would give us how many children there are. So 12,481 adults, total, take away the 8,906 adults. So total take away adults tells us there are 3,575 children. Okay, now 3/5 of these are boys, and we're being asked to work out the number of girls. So 2 ways to do this. We could work out the number of boys by doing 3/5 times 3,575 and then taking that away from the total number of children. Probably a bit quicker. If 3/5 of the children are boys, then 2/5 are girls, because 3/5 add 2/5 gives us a whole. So 2/5 of the children are girls, so it's 2/5 of the 3,575 children in total. Now, because it's 2/5 of a total, you just multiply these together. So if I were you, just use your fractions button on the calculator. That's the third one down on the left where you've got the white rectangle over the black rectangle. So put 2/5 into that. Multiply this by 3,575 and we get 1,430. Now, as I said, you may have done it a different method. As long as you got 1,430, you will get full marks. Question 6. So simplify 6e times 2f. Well, 6 times 2 is 12. So it's 12 times e times f, which is 12ef. Now, for part B, just be very careful with the signs. We've got 5m being gathered with minus 2m. 5m take away 2m is 3m. And then 7k plus 7k added together with k, which is 1k, plus 7 plus 1 is plus 8k. Now for part C, so we need to solve this. So we need to get y on its own. So first of all, we need to undo that plussing of 3. How do we undo an adding of 3? We take away 3 from both sides. So we get 5y equaling 11. Then how do we undo that 5? 5y means 5 times y times 5. How do you undo a timesing by 5? You divide by 5. So y is 11 to be divided by 5. Now, leaving your answer as an improper, a top-heavy fraction is absolutely fine. So that would give you full marks. But if you wanted to, you could have written that as 2 1/5, which is the same thing as 2.2. Either of those would be fine, but as I said, 11 over 5 would be perfectly okay to give you full marks. Question 7. Write down the mode. Now, the mode is the number that crops up most often. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 4s. 4 crops up 5 times. That's more than anything else. So 4 is the mode. Now, the range is the biggest number take away the smallest number. So that's 10 take away 4, which is 6. Now, the median is the middle one once you've put them all in order. So let's put them in order first of all. So we've got 5 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've then got 1 5. We've then got 3 7s. And 8 and a 10. Now, to work out the middle one, if I were you, I would just work your way in from the edges. So take out the smallest and the biggest, and take out the next one, and so on. And that leaves me with 5 in the middle. Now, for part D, Clark works in a shoe shop. On Tuesday morning, he sold some pairs of shoes. We don't know how many, but the mean price of the shoes was 34. So when you added up the price of all the shoes that were sold, divided it by the number of shoes, we got 34. Now in the afternoon, he sold two, one for 31 and one for 49. What will happen to the mean? Will it be more or less than 34? Now, two ways of looking at this. Perhaps the easiest one is to say, right, look, compared to the 34, £31 is 3 less than this, whereas the 49 is 15 more than that. Overall, that is a positive number, and therefore the mean will go up. And alternatively, we could go and say that the mean number for the two sold in the afternoon, add 31 to 49, we get 49.50, we get 80. 80 divided by 2 is 40. Now 40 is bigger than 34, so again, overall, the mean is going to go up. So either of those two reasons will do. So is the mean price of the pair of shoes sold on Tuesday morning more or less than 34? So the mean price for all shoes is greater than 34. I'm going to go for the second reason, I think, because the mean of the shoes, the mean of the afternoon shoes is 40, which is greater than 34. Okay, as I said, if you went and explained that 31 is only 3 below 34, whereas 49 is 15 more than 34, and 15 is greater than 3, then that would also be perfectly good. Question 8. So we're going to work out the angle x, and we've got to give a reason for each stage of the working. Now, the first thing I've noticed is the fact that we've got these two little dashes here, telling us that this triangle at the bottom, the triangle CDB, is an isosceles triangle. So these two base angles here are the same size. So how big are they? Well, the angle at the top is 116. So if we do 180, take away 116, that is 64. Now that's got to be spread equally over these two base angles. 64 divided by 2 is 32. So that is 32, and that is 32. 116 and 32 and 32 is 180. These two base angles are the same. So I'm going to explain that this angle here, which is angle D to B to C, so angle DBC equals 32 degrees. And the reason is base angles of an isosceles triangle are equal. So write down the reasons as you go. Now, because that's 32, this angle here can be worked out because we know that this is a right angle. The angle from C to B to A is 90 degrees because of this little square. Okay, angle ABC is 90 degrees. So angle A to B to D must be 90 take away 32. 90 take away 32 equals 58 degrees. So angle ABD equals 90 degrees, take away 32 degrees equals 58 degrees. I don't think we really need to say much more than that. We're clearly just taking it away from the 90 degrees. Now, once we know that angle, focusing on triangle A to B to D, we can now work out this angle here, because angles in a triangle add up to 180. So describe this angle here. You can either describe it as angle from A to D to B, or you could describe it as B to D to A. It doesn't matter. So angle ADB so that equals 180 take away 55, take away 58, which is 180, take away 55, take away 58 is 67. And we must give the proper reason why that is the case, is because angles in a triangle total 180. Because angles in a triangle total 180. So make sure that you say they total 180. Don't say they are 180 or anything like that. They add up to 180. So that's 67. Now we can work out what x is, because angles in a circle, or more precisely angles about a point, add up to 360. So to finish, we can say x equals 360, take away 67, take away 116. So 360, take away 67, take away 116 is 177 degrees. So that's our final answer. But give the reason to x, because angles about a point, so that's all the way around, that's a full turn. Angles about a turn, about a point, total 360 degrees. Again, make sure you say total. Question 9, part A. Write these fractions in order of size. Start with the smallest fraction. Now, one way to do this is to convert them all into decimals. Okay, so you could get out your calculator, do 7 divided by 10, that's 0.7. 4 divided by 5 is 0.8, and use those decimals to help you get them in the correct order. And that's absolutely fine. Because these have quite an easy common denominator, I'm going to do this by way of fractions. Now I can see that both 10, 5, 2 and 40 all go into 40. So I'm going to convert all of them into something out of 40. Now obviously the last one's already out of 40, that's 29. So 7 out of 10, how do I get from 10 to 40? I multiply by 4. So multiply the 7 by 4, that's 28. 4/5, turning that into something over 40. 5/8 of 40. So if I've multiplied the denominator by 8, I've got to multiply the numerator by 8, which is 32. 4/8 is 32. And a half is 20 over 40. So putting these in order, that's the smallest, then that, then that, then that. So going back to my original fractions, 20 over 40, so the half is the smallest, then the 7 over 10, then the 29 over 40, and then finally 4/5. Now be very careful with these show questions. So just take the left hand side, manipulate them to get the right hand side. So LHS stands for left hand side. So I'm taking my 8 over 15 and my 3 over 10. Now I need a common denominator here. Now I could make it 150 and that's fine. It would just be quite a bit of simplifying at the end. But I can see that 15 and 10 both go into 30. So I'm going to make 30 my common denominator. So 8 over 15, how do I convert that into an equivalent fraction? I multiply top and bottom by 2. And then with my 3 over 10, how do I turn that into something over 30? I multiply top and bottom by 3. 3 3s are 9. So 16 over 30 and 9 over 30, or 16 add 9 is 25 over 30. And if I go and divide top and bottom by 5, I get my 5/6, which is my right hand side. So I have shown what I needed to show. Now for part C, same approach. Start off with your left hand side. So my left hand side is 4 over 4 2/3 divided by 1 1/9. Now with any of these mixed number fraction questions, doesn't matter whether you're adding, subtracting, timesing or dividing, start off by turning them into improper fractions, top heavy fractions. So 4 2/3 is 14 over 3. I've done 4 3s are 12, add the 2 to get 14, and I'm dividing that by 10 over 9. 1 times 9, add the 1. Now, for fractions, you keep the first fraction the same. You change it from a division question to a multiplication question, and you flip the second fraction over. Now, once you've turned it into one of these multiplications questions, it's the easy one. It's just top times top, bottom times bottom. Now, 14 times 9 is 126, and 3 times 10 is 30. Now, both of these are divisible by 6. Now, it wouldn't matter if you got there slowly, you divided by 2 and then by 3. But if you divide top and bottom by 6, we get 21 over 5. And converting that into a mixed number, that is 4 and 1/5, which is what we had to get to. That is our right-hand side. Question 10. Now, you've got to be very careful with these. It's very easy to make little slips. I mean, they are easy questions, but just be very careful. So we're told that the big rectangle represents 8 emails. So just going to get 8 written into all of the big rectangles. So that's easy. Time consuming, but I just think it just makes sure that you don't make any silly mistakes. So we've then got to start thinking about the fractions. Now, half of 8 is 4. So when we go and cut this right down the middle, we're going to we're left with 4 emails. So that's going to be a 4, and that's going to be a 4. Now, half of that again is going to be 2. So that little bit there is going to be a 2. Now, this one up here is going to be a 4 and a 2, which is a 6. So let's just go and add all of those up. In fact, I think it's easier if I just call that a 6. That's easier to see. So on my top row, I've got an 8, an 8, an 8, and a 4. So 3 8s are 24, and a 4 is 28. My second row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 8s are 40. 40 plus 6, 46. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 8s are 48. That's a 52. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 8s are 48 plus 2 is 50. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 8s are 64. So if we then just go and add up that final column, so we've got a 28 plus a 46 plus a 52 plus a 50 plus a 64. That gives us a total number of emails of 240. So the total number of emails is 240. Now the question actually asks for the mean number of emails sent on these 5 days. So if we've got 240 sent in total, how many is that per day? Well, divide it by the 5 days. 240 divided by 5 is 48 days. Question 11. So rotate this triangle 180 degrees about the 0.76. Now this is quite hard to do without using tracing paper, which you will be doing. So I'll just talk you through the principles. So first of all, get your center of rotation, which is the coordinate 7, 6. So 7 along the corridor, 6 up the stairs. So what I would want you to do is to get a piece of tracing paper and put it over the shape and over your center of enlargement. Draw around the shape. And most importantly, draw an arrow pointing straight up. Now go and get a pencil, a sharp pencil, and point on the X. So that's your pivot, that's your point you're rotating around. And then move the tracing paper around until that arrow is now pointing downwards. So that's 180 degrees transformation. And then draw over the shape where the triangle is moved to. Now that's going to be this triangle with coordinates 6, 4, 6, 1 and 4, 1. So your final answer will be that triangle there. Now for part B, fully describe the transformation that maps P onto Q. Now we can see that's a reflection. So the question is, where's the mirror line? So which is halfway between the shapes? So if we count the squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They are 8 squares apart if we take the equivalent point. So going along 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, our mirror line is going to be that line down there. So we're going to get 1 mark for saying it's a reflection. and then the second mark for saying the mirror line. Reflection in the line. Now be careful, this vertical line going downwards to x being -1 is x being -1. Okay, any coordinates on that point, on that line rather, will have an x coordinate of -1. So -1, 0, -1, 1, -1, 2. So this line here is the line x equals -1. So reflection in the line x equals -1. Question 12. So, big tip here for this 12 part A, make sure you're using the fractions button on your calculator. That's the one, the third down on the left, where you've got the white rectangle over the black rectangle. So, using that button, put 24.3 take away 16.8 at the top of the fraction. Use the arrow keys to go downwards and put 0.18 below. Go to the right to get out of the fraction, then add square roots of 67.4 equals, and we get 49.87641 697, I think. It's a bit dark in here. Let me just double check that. 49.8764. Right, good. Now for part 2, write this down to one significant figure. Now be careful, that is not one decimal place. The answer is not 49.9. One sig fig means you're only allowed one digit, which is not a 0. So that's going to be 50. Question 13. So each exterior angle of a regular polygon is 24 degrees. Now, one of the rules about interior and exterior angles is that the exterior angles always add up to 360. Okay, exterior add up to 360. So if each of them is 24, how many must there be given that they add up to 360? So we're going to do 360 divided by 24. So 360 divided by 24 gives us 15 sides. Question 14. So the highest common factors of 40 and 64. So what are the factors of 40? Well, 1 times 40 is 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, and 5 times 8. So those are all the factors of 40, I think. Now the factors of 64, what whole numbers multiplied by another whole number gives you 64? Well, we've got 1 and 64, 2 and 32, 3 doesn't go, 4 does, 4 and 16, I think. 6 doesn't know, 7 no, then 8 is 64. I don't think I've missed any there. So those are the factors of each of those. The common factors will be the numbers which are in both lists, which are the 1, the 2, the 4 and the 8. And the highest of those common factors is 8. Now part B is quite tricky. Now 8, we've got to do 8 lots of A, which means 8 times A. Now we've been told that A is 2 to the n multiplied by 3 multiplied by 5 to the m. Now we've got to do 8 lots of this. Now 8 is 2 cubed. So it's 2 cubed times 2 to the n times 3 times 5 to the m. Now when you multiply, where you've got the base number, the big number the same, you add the powers. So these two here combined is 2 to the power of 3 plus n, or n plus 3. And then we've still got the 3. And we've still got the 5 to the power of m. Now that's quite tricky, I think, for foundation. Question 15. So we've got a distance time graph here. So time's going along the bottom, and this is the distance from home. So the distance increases, stays the same for a bit, then increases again. Now for part A, on a journey to the park, did Jelena cycle at a faster speed before or after she stopped at a friend's house? Now she stopped at a friend's house here where the distance from home doesn't change. Now, the steeper the line, the faster you are going. Now, the line is steeper, it's going up more quickly for the first part of the journey. It's slightly less steep for the second bit. So, to answer the question, Jelena cycled faster. Jelena cycled faster before she stopped at her friend's. Where the gradient, that's the slope, is steeper. So for part B, Jelena stayed at the park for 45 minutes. Okay, 45 minutes. Now looking at the scale, if we go from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, you will see that's 4 squares. So each square represents 15 minutes. Okay, 15, 30, 45, 60, which is an hour. So if Jelena stayed at the park for 45 minutes, that's 3 lots of 15 minutes. So we need to go along 3 squares. 3 squares. So for 45 minutes, so from 12 o'clock to 12:45, she is just staying at the park, and she's remaining 24 kilometers from home. That scale's quite straightforward. You can see here each square just represents 1 kilometer. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Now, she then cycled without stopping at a constant speed of 16 kilometers back to her home. So she's going at 16 kilometers per hour. So she will go 16 kilometers in 1 hour. Or if you like, if you halve that, she would go 8 kilometers in half an hour. Now, how far does she have to go home? She's got to go 24 kilometers to go home. So how long is 24 kilometers going to take her? Well, if 8 kilometers take half an hour, 24 kilometers is 3 times as long. 3 times as long. That's 3 lots of a half, which is 1.5 hours. So she starts heading for home at 12:45. It's going to take her an hour and a half to get home. So that's 1:45 to 15. So she gets home at 14:15. So 14:15, that's 1 square after 14. That's when she gets home. So she travels at a constant speed. So we need to put in a straight line going from when she started going home, which is there, to when she got home at 14:15. Okay, that bit should have been done with a ruler 2 at the top. So 3 squares while she stayed at the park for 45 minutes. And then that's the distance home, taking an hour and a half. Now for part C, we're being asked to work out the average speed for the whole journey. Okay, but it does make it clear, do not include the times when she was not cycling. So to work out the average speed, we need to work out the total distance travelled. Well, she went 24 kilometers away from the house and then 24 kilometers home. So she did a total of 48 kilometers. Okay, just 2 lots of 24. Right, now how long did she take? Now she took that time there where she stopped at her friend's and carried on to the park. That is a total of 2 hours, 10 to 12 o'clock, less the 15 minutes that she stopped at her friend's. So 2 hours, which is 120 minutes, take away the 15 minutes, that is 105 minutes. Okay, and then we worked out that the distance home, we worked out in part B, took us 1.5 hours, which is another 90 minutes. So that is a total of 195 minutes. Now 195 minutes is 3 1/4 hours. Remember 3 6s are 18, so that's 3 1/4 hours, so that's 3.25 hours. So 48 kilometers taking 3.25 hours. So to work out the average speed, we're going to do 48 divided by 3.25. Now that, before we round it, is 14.769 ... kilometers per hour. So to one decimal place, which the question requires, that's 14.8 kilometers per hour. Question 16. So work out P when G is 7, H is -4. So P is 2G, which is 2 lots of 7. Then we're adding on 3 lots of H, which is 3 lots of -4. So 2 lots of 7 is 14, plus 3 times -4 is -12. 14 minus 12 is 2. Now for part B, we've got e to the 9 divided by e to the 5. When you're dividing, you subtract the powers. 9 take away 5 is 4. So that's e to the power of 4. Now, when you've got a power inside the bracket and a power outside the bracket, you multiply these together. 2 8s is 16. Now, to expand them and simplify the brackets, expanding means getting rid of the brackets, so you do the for clause. You're going to do x times x, x times -2, 9 times x, 9 times -2. So clause number 1, x times x is x squared. X times -2 is -2x. Plus 9 times x is plus 9x. Then 9 times -2 is -18. So that's expanding. Now simplifying is when you gather the like terms. So you can gather up those x's in the middle. So the x squared remains unchanged. -2x plus 9x is plus 7x. Just be careful in the number line. If you start on -2 and you add 9 to this, you get plus 7. And then we got the -18 to finish. Now factorizing means putting the brackets in. And factorizing fully means there's going to be more than one component we take outside the bracket. Now, what's the highest common factor of 16 and 20? That's 4. What's the highest common factor of c to the power of 4 and c? That's c. And what's the highest common factor of p squared and p cubed? That's p squared. So all of that goes outside the bracket. Open up the bracket. Now, 4cp squared times what would give you 16c to the 4p squared? Well, we need another 4, because 4 4s are 16. We need another c cubed, because c times c cubed would be c to the 4. We already have the p squared. Now, get the sign right. It's a plus. And repeat. 4cp squared times what gives us 20cp cubed. So how do we go from the 4 to the 20? We multiply by 5. We've got the c already. To get from p squared to p cubed, we need another p. And then, of course, you can check your answer. Do the to clause and check you get back to what you started with. Question 17. So, red to blue, we have the ratio of buttons is 5 to 3. But then blue to green is 1 to 2. So blue to green is 1 to 2. Now, in order to be able to compare red to blue to green, we really need the blue ratio to be the same so we can get the consistency throughout. Now, how can we turn this 1 into a 3? We can multiply it by 3. So 1 to 2 is the same ratio as 3 to 6. So we've now got the ratio red to blue to green of 5 to 3 to 6. 5 to 3 to 6. Now we are told there are 48 green buttons in the box. So there are 48 in the green column. So that's the actual number of buttons. So ratio-wise, that 48 buttons is represented by the share of 6. Now, how do we go from 6 to 48? We multiply by 8. So to work out the number of red buttons would be 5 times 8, blue buttons 3 times 8. We're trying to work out the red buttons, so that's going to be 5 times 8, which is 40. So there are 40 red buttons. Question 18. Now, when we draw one of these cubic graphs, that means when we've got an x squared, some x's and some numbers, if you've got a positive x squared, you're going to get a positive parabola. The shape's going to be a smiley face. Now, that's always going to have some symmetry. So as we work out these y values, start looking out for any repeated y values. Now, we need to fill in the table. We also need to draw the graph. We will do these sort of simultaneously. So let's go and start off by working out one of the easier values. So leave the -2 and the -1 for now. Let's work out the y value when x is 1. So when x is 1. Now the curve is y equals x squared minus 3 lots of whatever x is, take away 1. So let's work out y, excuse me, when x is 1. So what is 1 squared? That is 1. What is -3 times 1? That is -3. And then take away another 1. So what is 1 minus 3 minus 1? Well, that is -3. So we have worked out that that value there is -3. Now, straight away now, I can see some symmetry. Okay, that -3 lines up with that -3 there. Now, think of it as a pebble just dropping to a pond here and the ripples coming out. We're going to get symmetrical values. So that -1 is going to be repeated over there. So I don't even need to work that one out. That will be -1. I can work it out. 3 squared, is 9. 9 take away 3 lots of 3 is another 9. Take away 1 does indeed give me -1. But I can just do that by symmetry. And similarly, that 3 symmetrically will go over there, give me a 3 here. So the only value I have to work out that I can't rely on the symmetry is when x is -2. So let's work it out when x is -2. So y is going to be -2 squared, take away 3 lots of -2, then I'm going to -1. That's just substituting -2 into the equation of the curve. So -2 squared, be careful, -2 times -2 is +4. -3 times -2 is +6, and then we're taking away the 1. 4 add 6, take away 1 is 9. So when x is -2, y is 9. So let's go and plot those values. We've got -2, 9. We've got -1, 3. We've got 0, -1. We've got 1, -3. We've got 2, -3. We've got 3, -1. And we've got 4, 3. Now, as you draw the curve in, just do a nice gentle curve. Don't give it a flat bottom. Make sure it just curves round. Right, and we get a curve looking something like that. Question 19. So, we know that all the probabilities are going to have to add up to a whole. So, the 2x plus the 0.18 plus the 2x plus the 3x plus the 0.26 plus the x must all add up to a whole. So, adding up the x's, we've got 2x and 2x and 3x and x. So, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8x. Then adding up the normal numbers, 0.18 add 0.26 equals 0.44. So 8x add 0.44 has to equal a whole. So let's go and solve this for x. So take away 0.44 from both sides. We get 8x equaling 0.56 divide by 8, we get x equaling 0.7. Let me just check that. 0.56, sorry, 0.07, that should be 0.56 divided by 8 is 0.07, is what I meant to say, 0.07. Okay, so that's what x is. So we can now go and work out any of the missing probabilities. Now we're being asked to work out the number of times that the dice will land on an even number. So we need to just focus on all the even numbers, which are obviously 2 and 4 and 6. Now the probability of a 2 is 0.18. The probability of a 4 is 3 lots of x. So 3 lots of 0.07, which is 0.21. Okay, that's 3 lots of 0.07. That's 0. I can't see that very clearly. That's 0.21. Now, probability of a 6 is x, which is 0.07. So the probability of an even number is the probability of a 2 plus the probability of a 4 plus the probability of a 6. So that's 0.18, add 0.21, add 0.07. So adding those three together, 0.18, add 0.21, add 0.07, and that totals 0.46. So the probability of an even number is 0.46. Now that's not actually what the question is asking us for. We're working out an estimate for the number of times the dice will land on an even number if Becky throws it 200 times. So you take your 200 times and you multiply this by 0.46 to get your final answer. So 0.46 times 200, 0.46 times 200 equals 92. So 92 times. Question 20. Now we're being asked to work out the mass of the cuboid. Now you need to learn that density equals mass over volume. So rearranging this to make mass the subject, if we multiply both sides by V, we get density times volume equals the mass. So to work out the mass, we're going to take the density and multiply it by the volume. So the mass is going to be density over volume, just rewriting it the other way. So the density we're told is 0.7. And we've just got to multiply this by the volume of the piece of wood. Now, how do you work out the volume when you've got a cuboid like that? A cuboid like that. Work out the area of the end bit, which is 5 times 8, and then multiply this by the depth of the prism, which is 12. So we're going to do 5 times 8 times 12 to work out the volume. 5 times 8 times 12, which equals 480. So the mass is the density, which is 0.7, times the volume, which we just worked out to be 480. So 0.7 times 480 equals 336 grams. Question 21. So we're going to be writing this as an ordinary number. Now, because the power is a positive number, it's going to be a big ordinary number. So we need to go and put lots of zeros to the right-hand side so we can hop the decimal point. Just put lots in. Now, it's to the power of 6, so we just have to hop the decimal point along 6 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it finishes there. So looking back, we can see we've got 5 zeros after the 7. So 5, 7, and then 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Working backwards, I can run that like that. Now for part B, we're going the other way. We're trying to convert it into standard form. Now it's a small number, so this is going to have a negative power. So it's going to be times 10 to the negative something. Now, when we've got a standard form number, okay, the first number, as you can see up with part A, is always between 1 and 10. It was 5.7. So where will the decimal point go in order that our first number is between 1 and 10? Well, the number's going to have to be 4. That's between 1 and 10. So the decimal point has got to end up being there. So it's got to move from here to here. That's 1, 2, 3 hops. So it's going to be 4 times 10 to the minus 3. Now I'm just going to check. If we go and put 4 times 10 to the minus 3 into our calculator, we do indeed get a 0.04. So you can always check your answer afterwards. Now for part C, just simply put this into your calculator. And I would suggest you use that fractions button, the third down on the left, the one where you've got the white rectangle over the black rectangle. So open that up, go and put 2 times 10 to the 4 in the top bit. Use the times 10 to the X key, which is normally bottom row in the middle, times 10 to the 4. Added together by 3 times 10 to the 5. Move down to the bottom using the 4 arrows at the top, and that's 6.4 times 10 to the minus 2 as your answer. And we go and get 5 followed by 6 zeros. 5 followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. Let's just double check that on my calculator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes. Question 22. Now this is quite tricky. So if something is depreciating, it's going down in value. So if it's depreciating by 8%, it's going down by 8% each year. So we're going from 100% and it's reducing by 8% each year. So 100% take away 8% is 92%. So it's depreciating by 92% each year. Now we want to turn this into a multiplier. So it's just simply 92 divided by 100, which is 0.92. So that's how much it's going down by each year. So after 1 year, you would just multiply the original value by 0.92. After 2 years, you would multiply it by 0.92 and then 0.92 again, which is 0.92 squared, and so on. So with this particular question, the boat initially cost is 170,000. We've worked out our multiplier, and then the power is simply the number of years that are in the question. Now we're going from the 1st of January 2016 to the 1st of January 2019, so 17, 18, 19, that's 3 years. So simply put into your calculator 170,000 multiplied by 0.92, so I'm going to use the X and the white square button here, times 0.92 to the power of 3. Okay, so 170,000 times 0.92 to the power of 3, and that gives me $132,376.96. So answering the question to the nearest dollar, that's 132,377. So we've got to work out the area of this shape. So we've got 2 bits. We've got the area of the semicircle, and we've also got the area of the triangle. So I'm just going to hook out that triangle and sort of make it look a bit more the normal way around. Okay, we've got the right angle triangle there. We've got A to B to C, and we've got a base of 6 and a height of 6. Now, how to work out an area of a triangle is half times base times height. So that area is going to be half times 6 times 6, which is half of 36, which is 18. So that should pick us up a mark or so. Now, we need to work out the area of the semicircle. So you need to be able to quote the formulae for the circle. So you need to have learnt that cottage pies delicious, apple pies are too. Got to learn that, okay? So we've got the formula for the circumference and the formula for the area. Well, obviously on this occasion, it's all about area, so we can cross that one out. Now, area equals pi times the radius squared. Now, the radius of the circle is the length from the centre of the circle to the outside of the circle. And as you can see, that length is going to be half of whatever AC is. So we're going to have to start off looking back at the green triangle to work out the length of AC, so we can halve it to work out the radius. Now let's go and call that length from A to C AC. Now how can we work that out? Now with the right angle with the right angle triangle, you can use Pythagoras, where the square of the two shorter lengths equals the square of the hypotenuse. So we know that AC squared equals 6 squared plus 6 squared. 36 of 36 is 72. So AC squared equals 72. So AC equals the square root of 72. Pop that into your calculator. Square root of 72, and we get 8.485. Now leave that in your calculator for now. Don't go and lose that. Now that's the length from AC. So the radius is half of this. So literally, keeping that in the calculator, just multiply what you've saved in your calculator by 0.5. So times 0.5. And it probably says 3 root 2 still. That's the exact number. Pressing the SD button, we got 4.242. Again, please still just leave that in the calculator for now. Now the area equals pi r squared for a whole circle. So the area for our semicircle is going to be half times pi times the radius squared. So half times pi times our radius, which we just worked out, of 4.242 ... squared. Now hopefully you've still kept that in your calculator. So just leave it as it is, okay? So leave it in the calculator. Probably says 4.242640687. And just go and square this. So press the x squared button, press equals, and you get 18. So our area is half times pi times 18. Now half of 18 is 9, so that's going to be whatever 9 times pi is. So go and do 9 times pi, excuse me, multiplied by pi. And pi is the second function, bottom middle key probably, and that gives you 9 pi. Press the SD button, 28.274. So that is the area of the semicircle. So our total area is the area of the triangle, which was 18, added together with the area of the semicircle, which is 28.274. So adding these two things together, so 18 add the 28.274, we get 46.274. So answering the question and rounding this to one decimal place, our final answer is 46.3.